Hey everybody, it's Mike Sullivan with Born to Shine. Today we have an amazing guest, and her name is Bonnie Lambert. And Bonnie is in beautiful Tampa, Florida, and she's running for the school board at their Hillsborough Public School District.
It's District 3 in
District
Hillsborough
3.
County,
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Bonnie. Thanks for carving out some time for us today.
of course.
So well, you've been in the education field for a long time, over 3 decades, I think, right?
34 years.
34 years. There you go. Amen to that. Thank you. And what was your journey like?
I think it's important to know my background because I think it gives credibility to whatever my opinion might be.
Hmm.
Um, I started as a teacher
Hmm.
and I was an English teacher, language arts. I wrote curriculum also. I taught gifted, I taught honors, I taught regular, I taught fifth grade. This is my journey, fifth grade through 11th grade. I've taught study skills, you name it, foreign language, journalism, and I've seen all walks of life. I've worked in Miami, Jacksonville, and Tampa,
Oh, wow.
and I eventually in Miami, I won Teacher of the Year where I worked in my school. And I also won Dade County Community Educator of the Year,
Mm,
which could have gone to any person that, just served the community. It could have been a firefighter, a police officer, it could have been anyone. And I was a teacher and I won it. I think at a young age, I really started getting a sense of what our kids needed.
mm-hmm.
Um, I taught English, they wrote in their journals. I saw a lot
Mm,
of pain. Here
mm,
I thought I was going to be teaching grammar and writing, and but when you teach that, they're writing about their weekends, and back then we used to have homerooms where kids actually got to share, which we don't have any longer, but that it was called advisor advisee, where we would just sit around in circles and talk and share what we were feeling. And it's important, and we don't do that anymore. But during that time, I started seeing that our kids needed certain programs, and I
mm-hmm.
started developing those programs and reaching out to the community. And I think that's what helped me, win those awards, which really was wonderful. Then when I moved my children to Tampa, I won the same award here. So I won, it was called Here Serve Educator of the Year, and it was the person who best brought volunteers into the schools.
Mm,
And the reason I think that, I mean, it I just saw the need, and it just wasn't enough to be teaching in the classrooms. The kids were in pain, and some
mm,
of them were from very wealthy families, and some of them were from lower socioeconomic communities. It just was across the board. Kids struggle, and middle school was a really tough place. And I know um, we've had different shootings in elementary, middle, and high school. My focus became middle school. Our kids came in and they were very young. They come in sometimes at 10 years old into middle school and they leave. And if they failed at all, they leave at 16.
mm,
And they're dealing with hormones, they're dealing with bullying, they're
mm,
dealing with pressure that they don't have this they don't have the skills yet to, if they're not taught, they really don't understand how to work those dynamics and how to have those interpersonal skills and how to deal with de-escalation. And so teaching that to them became really important. Some of my students have parents that are in prison, or one or both, or their
mm,
foster care kids. I had two children I worked with that were shot in the head and they were both killed.
mm,
That was pretty horrible. So I've worked with kids at risk. That is my background. And when I retired after 34 years, I realized that our kids need more than what I believe they're getting right now. And I just felt really compelled to run for school board. I don't need to work anymore. The pay is under 44,000 or 45. I'm not even sure because it wasn't important to me. It was, I develop programs. I need to get those programs into our school system. And one of the things that I struggle with and why I wanted to do today's interview is it's become very politicized in Florida, and people don't realize that SEL is not a woke thing. It's been muddied. Um, what I'd like to see as a board member is I would like to see us give students the social and emotional skills that they need to cope in life so that they do better in schools, so that they don't bring their anger into the classroom, so that they know how to respond when they're being bullied and they understand what they can do, how they can advocate for themselves, whether it's find the right adult or advocate just in the locker room when they're alone. If we don't give them those skills, then they find the only skills that they know, which turn to anger and frustration, and a lot of times violence, a lot of times depression, anxiety, cutting. These are all the things that I've dealt with. I had a girl come in my office in my career, and she was bleeding in her jeans under her knees,
Mm,
and it was a strange place for blood to be coming through on both sides.
mm,
And it turned out she did not know what to do with the scenario she was in. So she cut her legs up, which
mm,
is unique because usually they cut in different areas, but
mm,
this is what she did. You know, there's no recipe for what to do when you have this anxiety and depression and um, as adults, we feel anxiety and it's really hard to cope with. So imagine the kids that are in middle school and they're alone and maybe they don't have someone to turn to. So if we don't give them those skills, they're going to find them somewhere. And I think we have seen as a country that we have to help our youth. We have to. We cannot cut that out. So I believe in teaching the Constitution. I believe in teaching kids and getting back to reading, writing, and arithmetic and getting politics out of the schools. But for me, as a board member who has all of this experience, you cannot cut out SEL. You can't do it. That's my belief. You can't. It is not a Republican or a Democrat
mm.
viewpoint that I'm giving. It is an issue based. This is what I've seen in the schools. I have worked with the kids. I have been an administrator. I was an acting assistant principal for 3 years during the time that we had a huge foster care system coming through our school. So they really needed it.
If they lack the tools, if they don't know them, they don't know them, and they can't use them to overcome any of the anger, the internal struggles, anger, loneliness, isolation, frustration, overwhelm, even depression, for sure. So if they don't have the tools, and if a school district refuses to bring any kind of program in, they're really hurting their own students.
I agree with you, but I think it's a little bit more than that. I think it's going to
Mhm,
just really affect our community. I
mhm,
had a student in high school and he died by taking his own life. And we don't use the term committed suicide because anymore because you're not committing anything. You're dying by choice because you had these emotional issues that you didn't know how to get out of. And the reason I think it affects our whole community because they then become our workforce.
mm,
And so they could be that my student who died by suicide
mm,
was such a bright African American, brilliant boy who had a GPA off the charts, but the social emotional wasn't there. He didn't know how to manage that part.
mhm,
And so, had he got to the workforce, and we all face challenges in the workforce. I'm a grown adult, and I'm experiencing bullying in my own political race. And if
mm,
I didn't have the tools to know how to manage that, then that comes out in my workforce. So, managers bully us sometimes, coworkers bully us. So,
mhm,
how do you make sure that kids who graduate high school are ready for the workforce? We give them tools. We teach them, hey, you don't want to go to college? You can be you can do this. You can be a mechanic. You can be a tech in a hospital. There's so many options for you. But if we don't teach them how to deal with interpersonal relationships, and then they're out in our workforce, even after college, it doesn't matter. Adults, we're all human. And if you take children from K through 12 and you do not give them social and emotional interpersonal skill set so that they know how to deal with life,
Hmm.
then how can we expect them to be in our workforce? I
Hmm.
mean, I can tell you people come in, they go into their doctor's office, they don't like what they're told, or they don't like what happened with the secretary before, or who knows what, they can't download their records, and then they take it out on the doctors and then they can't get the help they want. I
Hmm.
mean, this bleeds into every part of society if we are not teaching kids from K through 12 to manage their emotions and manage the emotions of others. Trust me, they may have great parents at home who are teaching them, but when they get in school, their parents aren't there. And the school needs to wrap their arms around these kids and help them. And it doesn't matter. I'm just telling you, I know this from
Hmm.
34 years and winning awards. I am a person of the most solid background in what I have done. I was the strategic initiatives director for the superintendent here in Hillsborough County. I have worked with the last four superintendents. I have seen schools at every level, and I promise you, we cannot cut out social emotional learning, in my opinion, in our schools. I almost said public, in any school, because we are teaching individuals how to be caring human beings, but also how to deal with others when they are not.
Bonnie Lambert, thank you so much for making time with us today. I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom, your experience, and your passion and encouragement for school districts all over the world to embrace mental health and emotional well being, right? Social emotional learning, giving kids the tools to work through life. Things like being bullied, conflict resolution, things like I don't feel really good about myself, self esteem, self confidence, things like being kind to others, others centered instead of me, self centered. The world's about me. No, it's not. It's about everyone else. Be others centered, empathy, right? Kindness, grace, gentleness, teamwork. All of those parts are part of social emotional learning. And we need that just as people to work together, to have harmony, to have peace, to have togetherness, to have a healthy community, like you said. So it's not just the school, but a healthy community, a healthy state, a healthy country. And it won't happen unless the kids get the tools they need. Math and writing and reading, of course, that's a staple, but they can't reach their full potential if they're struggling and dying internally. They need the skills to feel solid so they can really focus on their work.
Well,
So,
I'd like to say one more thing.
absolutely.
A lot of people that I'm meeting along my campaign trail say to me, well, I don't have children in the school system. Why does this really matter? Why would I,
Mm, mm,
why vote for that particular office when we don't know enough?
mm-hmm,
Um, it's it's probably one of the most important things you can ever get involved in as a person who is living on this earth right now.
mm-hmm,
Whether you are in a school, whether you have children in a school, grandchildren in a school, or no one in a school. Because when you go later, maybe to go buy clothing in a store, or you are at Home Depot and you need help with something, or you're checking out in Publix or grocery store, the person on the other side is going to be someone who went through a school system,
mm-hmm.
whether it's public, private, charter, whatever it is, and we don't know who they are. And we don't know what their day was like. And we don't know what happened to them in the morning. And we don't know what happened to them when they were children. And if we don't become advocates for mental health and to make sure that the generation coming out of our schools is better equipped, we will continue to see shootings in our movie theaters,
Mhm.
our shopping centers,
Mhm.
and our schools. So this isn't about the schools. This is about you, you, the person listening right now. This is not political. This is, do you care about your safety and your loved one's safety? Because the person opposite of you or in traffic may not have ever had the tools to know how to deal with frustration. Because often these shootings, they shoot innocent people because they're just angry. And then sometimes they target the people who bullied them. It's both.
Right.
We can't cut out SEL.
Love
We've
it.
got to give the future generation the tools to know how to deal with the emotions that they're feeling, whether they're related to their own mental health or just related to the bullying that they are having to go through at this time.
And bullying is skyrocketing. Kids ending their own lives is skyrocketing. Depression is skyrocketing. Anxiety is all time high. All of those, they're all time highs. So, and none of us want to see that. I understand, and I went through it personally. It's horrible. But you bring a very, very profound point that it doesn't affect just the individual. So I can understand if a parent were to say, well, we don't have children, why should this be important to us? And it's immediately for me, it's more than just ourselves, it's the entire community, right? And you use the example if they're going out in public to a grocery store, a movie theater. So it's really setting our kids up for success, right? Setting them up to do well versus fail. And it's giving them the tools they need to deal with all that anger, all that frustration, whatever the internal turmoil is. If they don't have a tool to counteract it, it's just like going in. I recently had either bronchitis or pneumonia. The doctor didn't know. And if they didn't have antibiotics, I probably wouldn't be here right now. So there was a problem. Bronchitis, doctor, antibiotic, thank you, I'm alive. So it's the same. Kids are struggling. They're angry, angry, angry. They don't know how to get out or they internalize it. No solution. It's going to keep escalating. We bring in some tools. And it's almost like that beautiful example of someone dropping a pebble on a pond, and that effect has that ripple effect. And it's the same when we give our kids the tools for conflict resolution, how to
Mhm.
even internalize and reduce the anger they have. They can do that themselves when they have, only if they have the exact tools they need. And we can do that, but we need to all work together. So, and then you have that beautiful ripple effect in the whole
We
community.
did used to have programs here in
Mm,
Hillsborough County that were conflict resolution, and I
mm,
led those programs in various schools.
it's great.
Um, yeah, so I mean, we're not really doing that as much anymore, and I do believe we need to. And I think it's important that you're speaking to me as a board member potential,
Mm-hmm.
or board member candidate,
Mm-hmm.
because we need, in my opinion, we need a mix on the school board. We need someone who understands policy, procedure, the finances, but it's not enough to just have one board member who
Mm,
believes in SEL
right.
because ultimately you need a consensus vote. And so it's not just to protect our children, which of course that's been my whole life, and I
Mm-hmm.
do believe in protecting children. But for
Mm-hmm.
the argument's sake of this conversation, is to protect everyone in the community, to
Mm-hmm.
give everyone a better. It's even to protect, the more I know and the more I learn how to handle things. I'm human. I get frustrated and,
Mm-hmm.
I have my bad moods, like anyone else. But I've learned all of the, different techniques, and I've got a whole toolbox of, here's like what I can do when it's this, and here's what I could do when it's this, and here's how, I need to handle myself. How would we not give that to our whole community? And it isn't enough to have one mental health advocate on the school board. It's important. These are our kids and the people making decisions, the people who hire the superintendent. That's your school board. We make the decision who should be on the school board. And so, unless it's sometimes it's also in some districts, not in mine, but it is elected. And so when the community listens to what I have to say, I hope they will elect a superintendent that believes that we've got to put mental health advocates on the school board. I hope that,
Absolutely.
that's you've got to have that belief. This is not political. This is not, it's been muddied. It is not woke. It is not. I am not looking for that type of SEL. I am looking for the type that I have described today. And it's so important that people who are voting, that put people in offices all over, understand that SEL and woke, that's not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, Florida, I'm speaking to you. I'm not speaking to the woke. That's the far left. I'm speaking to the center. I'm speaking to the independents and some Dems and some Republicans. I'm speaking to human beings that are for giving students the tools they need to succeed in the rest of their life and succeed with us on the other side of them, wherever they're working.
Bonnie Lambert, thank you so much for sharing time with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for letting me explain the difference for Florida.
So when you were in K through 12, Bonnie, was there anything that you struggled with emotionally or mentally? Like for me, I was struggling in third grade with anxiety, with depression. I was bullied horribly. So there was a lot going on in my little body while I was trying to learn how to read and write and do math. And it made it really difficult. Now, if you're comfortable, is there anything that you can share with us that maybe you struggled with?
Yes, and I mean, I don't think I've ever met anyone so far that hasn't felt something during those ages.
Mm-hmm.
So, I do remember that in elementary school, my mother cut my bangs too short, and they made fun of me for that all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
I was so young. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know how to navigate that. I
Mm-hmm.
just was, I was the person I am today, and I had a kind heart, and I was raised with very strict morality skills or morals, and how you treat other people. So I would never really fight back because in my mind, I didn't want to be mean to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have the skills to stand up for myself. And after fifth grade, my parents pulled me out because it was
Mm-hmm.
really tough.
I'm
And they put
sorry.
me in a private school.
Mm,
But unfortunately, it was I was bullied there too, and for a
mm.
completely different reason. But it happens.
I'm sorry.
The school they sent me to was incredible, but
Mm,
it was a religious school, and my parents were not that religious.
mm,
So here I am going to a school teaching me um, very strict, um, a very strict way of living that my parents weren't living. So I
mm,
wasn't accepted. I
mm,
wasn't accepted. The kids were nice to me, but some of them, their parents didn't want them to hang around with me because
mm,
I didn't live the life that they were living. And some of the teachers didn't understand why I was there. And so I found myself very much alone. And perhaps that was my journey to help me advocate for children. I don't know, but I could tell you, boy, did I go through a lot. And then it was tough. It was tough.
mm,
And I had to find those skills elsewhere, and I had to find them much later in life. And that affected everything. That affected my marriage, that affected everything I did because I didn't have the skills till later. And then now that I have the skills, it's preparing me to deal with the bullying that I'm actually going through now, just being a candidate, which anyone can understand. That's a hellacious journey. But I'm going to do it. And I'm strong because I'm committed to children in our society, in our community. But thank God I have the skills now because it's been tough, but I didn't
mm,
have it when I was younger. I had to
mm,
change schools over it. And
mm,
then I had to go all the way through 12th grade trying to figure out, where do I fit in?
mm.
How sad.
I'm so sorry, and I imagine it would have been really helpful for you and for me. It would have been a life changer for me. I don't want to speak for you, but I was bullied horribly too. And if there was a program or they had programs in the school or someone coming in externally with a program that focused on anti-bullying, that focused on empathy, that focused on kindness, that focused on self-esteem, being other-centered, helping each other, being kind to each other, that would have changed my life. And
Well,
even
I
building
have to
myself up.
say, it's very important that I say that my private school focused on kindness and they focused on empathy, and it was beautiful, but
Mm,
I didn't fit in. That was the problem. So
mm,
sometimes it's not just bullying.
right.
Sometimes we just need kids to have tools to know maybe they're heavy set and they're not fitting in. Maybe they have freckles and they don't fit in. Maybe they just, there's so many reasons why kids feel like another child doesn't fit in. And we need those skills. And thank God I had a teacher there that well, actually, two of them really wrapped their arms around me and didn't let me fall through the cracks. But I would have fallen through the cracks. And academics was not important to me because I was just trying to survive. This whole thing could be summarized in 30 seconds because that is when kids will learn. That is when kids will be productive in our society. That is when we will get what we're looking for. This is not a political thing. It's not a Democrat or a Republican stance. If we do these things and teach the whole child and children feel safe in schools and accepted, that is when we are going to get what we are looking for. That is when we will have a society that comes together and is productive and is educated and treats one another the way we are all hoping will happen one day.
Bonnie Lambert, thank you for being with us today.